Oh, wait, it's live?
Good morning, everybody. This is a special business casual edition of Ask a Painter Live. It's the morning. We usually go noon central. It is 9 central now, and I'm on some family time here. And I thought I'd get the Ask a Painter show out early today so we can have an uninterrupted day of family time here. So, excuse me. I'm going to be joined by Chris Shank here in a little bit. I am Nick Slavic. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use over 2 decades of experience as an entrepreneur and a craftsperson to answer any questions. So homeowners, DIYers, this is the largest collection of the best paint pros in the world here. So anything you've ever wanted to ask, this is the place to ask it. If I don't have the answer, these people definitely do. And for pros, you know what you're here for. We can talk about anything: apprenticeship, hiring, recruiting, bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, coding, science, whatever you want. The PDCA is gracious enough to underwrite this show, and Chris Shank, the education guy from the PDCA, will also be on here. I see that he's watching. We'll get him fired up here. See if we can bring him on. And he's nice enough to actually come on and ask that question, pending any sort of technology stuff.
Hey guys.
Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Chris. Hey, how you doing?
All right, so
I did the mirror mode,
but
I think you did not.
So I think
you're backwards.
Oh no, okay.
Or you did mirror mode and I did mirror mode and we reverse mirrored each other. That's all right. That's all right. How you doing, man?
Good, man.
How about you? Very good. Very good.
So there's a slight audio delay. I'm going to try to muscle through this stuff here, but I have some brain, so you're going to have to bear with me, all right? All right, so
Chris Shank, the education guy. Everybody knows you from the PDCA. You're here. We're going to talk about the contractor question of the week. All right, sounds good. I got it for you. Hold on. All right, contractor question of the week. You ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, so as a business owner, how do you financially prepare for your future? So you're thinking about your family's future, your personal future, the future of your business, and future of employees. So just in general, how do you do that?
So generally at
the high level of thinking, I think about it more like, not how much money to save. I think about it like, if we're going to start a painting business,
you have
to be you're taking on a lot of risk, so there has to be enough work to do it. So
for a standard
painting employee, you're probably going to make between $25,000 to $45,000 a year.
If you're
only making that in your paint business,
might as well
you might as well just go be an employee or have a single person company. If you're going to expand and grow, there has to be enough reward for you to do it in order to take on the risk. If you have 20 guys working for you and there's 10 vans driving around and there's all sorts of people on ladders and stuff like that, if you're still only making $30,000 to $60,000 a year, that's not enough money to make up for one bad incident, a car accident, a bad work claim, legal fees, things like that. So I think about it more like,
we have to
protect the money that we make in the business so that the risk worth all the reward. The reward is worth all the risk. So if you can do that, you can make sure you're protecting that stuff.
I think
one of the biggest downfalls is young painting contractors. They don't see profit versus wages. So what they do is they basically keep a standard checkbook, and money comes in and money comes out, and whatever's left over, they think that's profit. So that actually is wage. A profit is something above and beyond a wage. So a lot of mistakes that young guys do with the bookkeeping is all the money left over is technically the profit. So you have to pay yourself. If you were going to hire yourself to do this, you have to pay them something. So about a year or two ago, I started very intentionally separating out my own business to actually see what money was left over after the business was operating. That's a very, very important thing, because what you don't want to do is just create a job for yourself with a whole bunch of extra risk. You want to create a job for yourself, some profit if you're going to take on that extra risk. Okay. Hey, by the way, you're getting a comment that there's a bad echo. I wonder if it's because we're doing this. So I've asked my question. You might need to let me go so that way the sound could be fixed.
But that's exactly the route I wanted to see, is how you answer that question. Thank you for that.
All right. Well,
All right. Well,
sorry, Chris.
We'll
We'll do this again. But yeah, I'm fighting like a 1 second delay here, so I'll let you go and I'll continue with this. But hey, man, say hi to your family. Have a good holiday week, and see you later.
Bye, guys. Thank
Bye,
you.
Chris. Bye, Chris. Bye, Chris.
Okay, guys, sorry about the echo there. We run into that with cell phones sometimes, but yeah, so basically, financial considerations for the business. Number one, when guys talk about how much money they're making in the business, what you have to do is separate out your own wages and then profit. Profit is not just money that you made in the business. Profit is over and above all your paint is paid for, all your wages for your employees are paid for, your overhead is paid for, and even you are paid for. So if you're working in the business, you would have to pay yourself something if you hired yourself to do that job. You would not be working for free. Likewise, if you're a husband and wife team, two spouses in a painting business, that person is not free. If you had to hire somebody to do that, you would not find somebody to do all the things that your spouse does for free. So very important to sort of set it up where you pay yourselves each some salaries, and then you're looking for your profit over that in order to make sure the risk is worth it. I'll see if we got some. All right, sorry guys about the delay. So basically some basic considerations. Once you think globally about the painting business, where you basically don't want to just create a job for yourself. Most young painting contractors create a job that pays them just about what a painting business could pay them to do the craft, except they're taking on a whole bunch of other risks and things like that. So what you want to do is be careful that if you're going to take on all this risk, you have to make it worth your while. Interesting, if you're not on your own payroll, you can't take work comp, and you can't take unemployment. So all my employees, if I fire them, they can go get unemployment. If I decide to not do this business anymore, I can't get unemployment. Also, I can't get work comp. Well, technically, this year I believe I can because I'm actually on the payroll. But if you're not on your own payroll, if you're not a W-2 employee of your own company, if I get injured on the job, you really can't take work comp through your business. Now you can do some other things. It may just be a Minnesota specific thing, but so another financial consideration you want is if you just do residential repainting for private clients, cash flow is usually not a problem. So there's always a delay between you buy some materials, you pay your help to do a job, and then there's some lag between when you finish the job and then when you actually get paid. With private client residential repaint, I have a 7-day payment window, and most people pay as soon as the job is over, so that's great for cash flow. If you start working for general contractors, the good ones will pay 30 to 60, the average ones will pay 60 to 90, and almost everybody else will pay 90 to 120. So that means you might be waiting 3 to 4 months sometimes to get any of your money. And what that means is paint is paid for, materials is paid for, all your guys have been paid for, but you haven't got paid. And not a problem if you have enough private client work to keep the cash flow moving, but if you do a whole bunch of work for a whole bunch of contractors, that can be a super tight cash flow pinch. And what I do to solve this is we went after some builders this last year, and knowing that they have long payment windows, what I did was we have the standard business credit card. That's like an immediate quick thing where we can flex a little money in and out. I don't really like doing that. I mean, obviously the interest rates are higher on it, but it's already an established line of credit. It's been there forever. It's fairly high. I took out another business credit card just in case, as like a flex. I just like to have another, somewhere between $10,000 and $40,000 worth of credit just there, just in case. But the best thing you can do, and which it's a little harder to get, a little more logistically, is a business line of credit. So what I did was the bank that I run all my funds through, they basically just do your credit check, a background check, and they do everything else to see how much credit you can afford, and you get a line of credit through the bank, and basically you control it, which is really nice. So now that everything is electronically banked, I can just go on the internet and you got $100,000 of a business line of credit, and if you need and if you're waiting on 6 checks from a builder and payroll's going to be a little tight, you can just bump over $20,000 into your business checking account, and then when the builders pay, you just bump that money back over to your line of credit. Very low interest rate. I think somewhere between 4 and 5% for that stuff. I've even used it for vehicles and then paid them off in a few months just to try to keep, just because I don't like, the most valuable thing in your business is pure cash money, and that means, you know, not only green stuff but also stuff in your checking account. In the accounting world, cash is just any immediate funds that you have right now. So whatever's in your business checking account is cash. Protect that with your life. It's tempting to say, well, I'll just deplete that, and then a check will come in this next week. Protect that cash. I would, if you think payroll is going to be tight, or a big supply payment from one of your vendors is going to be tight, I bounce over a little from the line of credit just to protect my cash, and then, you know, when the checks come in, then I bump it back over to the line of credit. A line of credit really isn't a long-term sort of thing. Like, you wouldn't buy a boom lift for 40 grand and then pay it off over 3 years on your line of credit. A line of credit is more like a slush account, where you take some out, you put some in, take some out, you put some in, something like that. So the other thing is, you know, looking at contribution margin for your business to protect your cash flow. So industry standards are normally about 15% of most jobs are materials. That's obviously going to be different with like a one-person painting company than a 20, but everything over about a 5 or 6 or 7-person painting company is going to end up being about 15% of every job is going to be materials. Maybe 30%, 35% is going to be labor, give or take, and you have to watch those ratios. So at the end of every job that I do, we do a job costing, which is we charge this much for the job, we use this much materials and exact accounting, this many gallons, this is my price for it. We do a little bit of sundries sometimes, and then we calculate everybody's labor. So everybody's got a wage. This person had 30 hours, this person had 40 hours, times the wage. That's what the price for that job, or that's the price for the labor. Very important that you also build in some labor burden. So if you hire somebody for 22 bucks an hour, it doesn't just cost you 22 bucks an hour. You have work comp, you have liability insurance, you have unemployment insurance, all the little things that go along with it. And usually that equates to, you know, if you have an $18 employee, somewhere between $22 and $25 total labor burden. So when you calculate that, you actually want to take on that labor burden. Boys, is this super interesting or what?
Maybe.
All right, we'll get to some of your questions soon here.
Yay.
But you actually want to know what you're making at the end of these jobs, because you're charging something for it and it costs you something to produce it, and there's something left over at the end, and you can actually look at the ratios. You say, okay, we added up all the materials for this job, we came in at about 16%. Well, that might be a little high. Did we buy too much paint? Could we have maybe used a different paint like that? Did we do a process that was incorrect? And you can look at labor. Did we underperform, overperform, things like that? And if you manage your business at the micro level like that, you will make sure that the cash flow is there. What you don't want to do is do 30 days of work, add up the receipts, and figure out if you made money. Every single day I do an accounting of how far we get on jobs, a percentage breakdown. Each one of my crew leaders sends me an update of percentage done, hours used, and major things that got accomplished today. And mentally I'm tracking all these jobs to say, are we really 50% done? Based on what they've told me, we might be ahead or behind. And then we'll talk about Star Wars Legos too.
Yes.
So, all right, guys. So basically, just be ready. Even if you're, the best advice I could give was, I was not smart enough to have all this in place before I started, you know, putting the pedal down with expanding the business. I did just do it. I just got good advice from other people in the industry that said, listen, man, I know you don't think you need it, but just go get a line of credit. Just go talk to your banker and get a line of credit. Hopefully you're never going to have to use it, but it's there for you if you want it. So that was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. Trying to think what else. Maybe we can talk about Star Wars Legos, and then maybe if you guys got any questions, any comments, anything else you want to talk about, we'll do that. Why don't you guys show me some of your Star Wars Legos here while we're doing this. You guys have been so patient. Who's that?
Chewbacca and the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. What else you got?
Tiny one. Tiny
one. Yep.
I got the Sand Trooper with a giant
lizard.
And,
Awesome, dude.
And then I got C3. Wait, it's hard. It's hard to.
Dude, what does R2D2 say?
This is C3PO right here, the golden guy.
I love it.
This is R2D2.
So I just introduced these kids about 2 months ago to Star Wars, and we've been going through, we did the original 3, we did the prequel 3, and I think we're working through the last 3 right now. I think we got one more in there, but they have been, oh, there's Yoda on the back of Luke Skywalker.
We have longer Star Wars movies, now we have some weird ones like the Solo.
Yeah, the
That's
Solo.
right, dude.
So,
All right,
it's almost like
Can I show him Yoda's hut?
Oh, here we go, Anthony. Anthony, hey man, I saw you
Who's
commented before.
Anthony?
Awesome. 2 times ago, when I was in St. Louis, Missouri, Anthony, I and his wife got to hang out. We went and found an awesome barbecue place too. All right, so
Fair barbecue?
love what Anthony's doing too. I wish I had your drywall skills too. I wish some of the people in my company did too. That would be a nice. That'd be a nice sort of asset to have. What about long term? Do you have a retirement in place? Yes. So when I was another good piece of advice was when I was 18, before I left for the Army, my old man marched me down to a financial advisor and said, just talk to this guy. And I know it sucks, but like, take some money and start putting it away monthly now for retirement, and in the form of mutual funds, stuff like that. Just get in the habit of having that deducted monthly from that. And I'm glad I did, because it just got me in the habit of saving, and just knowing that, just like business owners, you should get in the habit of paying yourself through the business through a W-2 wage, or at least being intentional about writing yourself a check or something every month to get used to it. Because when you get to a certain size of business, they force you to be on a W-2, or it's more beneficial for you to be on a W-2. So there's a lot of ways. I took a lot of inspiration from other dudes in the industry. So with a painting business, if you want a retirement, you can go to a union, and hopefully you can get a pension or something like that. Most of us here are not doing that, so we own our own businesses, and for that, there's only a couple of options for retirement. You have something to sell, or you do this forever until you die, as a sort of lifestyle business and a cash flow business. Really, I mean, if you have to be honest, if you have a paint business that's 10 people or less, and you're the owner at the helm doing the majority of the sales and still the figurehead, you don't really have a lot to sell at the end of that. I mean, you're looking at some ladders, maybe a couple sprayers, maybe a van or two, but really a couple $1,000, maybe $10,000-$20,000 worth of assets. And if you want another painting business to buy your painting business, they really wouldn't be interested if you're still at the helm of it, because your business relies on you for so much of that if you're gone, then there's really nothing there. And you can say, well, we got 10 employees, they're all trained, they're this and that. You can buy that business, another paint business would buy that business, but technically there's nothing keeping those painters there, and the next month they could all leave, and then you basically paid something for nothing. And so it's very difficult. I know guys that can do it well. They have some buy-ins, earn-ins, earn-outs in there. But if you want something to, like, let's say you owned a coffee shop. Well, if you operate that coffee shop for 30 years, hopefully you would have purchased the building. You own the building. You own all the assets inside. It's an ongoing concern. People control it, and that's something you can sell. Most paint businesses really aren't worth anything. So we have a couple options. Grow your paint business to the size where you have, if you stepped away, the majority of the business would keep on running. So we're probably looking at 15 to 20 employees. You probably would need a salesperson or two, a production manager, an admin, maybe some project managers, things like that. That's really about the saleable size of a painting business. Now, what I took a lot of inspiration from other paint business owners who are much more mature in the industry than me is getting into rental properties, real estate, commercial real estate, things like that, so that you actually have a saleable asset at the end of all this. So I still have a lot of years ahead of me before we have to start